So now what we need to do is we need to determine where we're at. We have our levels of proficiency, okay, and you can either use Bloom's original taxonomy or the modified one, but really we're looking for evaluation, synthesis, analysis. That's the levels, okay? So how do we know where you're at? Well, if I assess something and Craig assesses something and Jeff assesses something, we're going to all assess it differently because we're different people with different backgrounds. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a rubric. And a rubric, in the most general sense of the word, is just how are we going to class something? Okay, it's a rule. It's a scoring method. And this is the method that we're going to use. We're going to talk about the method we're going to use to classify your attainment. What level are you at in your competencies? There are different rubrics. They're all different rubrics. Okay, so within my department, I have rubrics for homework. We as an engineering faculty have rubrics for grading exams. And then as a department, we have rubrics for other things. As a university, we have rubrics. And you can have any level of rubrics, right? So what we need to do is we need to say we can't all do our own rubric. The institution needs to use a rubric. So the rubric we're going to use for the BAS degree is from the AAC&U, American Association of Colleges and Universities, Value Rubrics. Now some of you are like, whoa. In LEC 305, those 6 of you who took that, we used the DQP. You are right. When we started the degree, we started with the degree qualifications profile. Then as we got into it, we shifted to the AAC&U. That shift occurred after 305, before this class. So we need to look at these new value rubrics. Well, where did this rubric come from? Well, the AAC&U developed something called the LEAP Essential Learning Outcomes. So LEAP was launched in 2005, so like 14 years ago, by the members of the Association of American Colleges and Universities. And what LEAP does is it's trying to convey to the public the importance of the 21st century liberal arts education so that we as a nation can meet our economic demands, creativity demands, vitality, be good citizens, and you're going to learn that in a liberal arts education. So what they did is they came up with 16 learning outcomes saying our citizens that were graduating from college in liberal education need to have these 16 outcomes. Well, that's a lot of outcomes, right? So we, as a university of the UW colleges, said we're going to start out by assessing our program, looking at 3 of those. We're going to use 3 of these 16 to judge our 3 proficiencies. Okay, we have our 3. So think of it as 2 different sides of the house. UW colleges, we have our 3 proficiencies. Now we need to tack on a rubric to evaluate those 3 proficiencies. We can use any of these rubrics. Absolutely. You are free to use any of these rubrics. But what we did is myself and a couple of other colleagues got together and helped kind of map some rubrics for you. But first let's look at these rubrics. So there's a rubric for each of these 16 elements. So here is, for example, is the critical thinking value rubric. So before we go any further, I want to just draw your attention to the website. On the website, I have posted all 16 value rubrics. And what's really cool about the value rubric is that for every rubric there's 2 pages. The first page is like this introduction, kind of telling you what the value rubrics are, what's the definition. So we'll look at civic engagement. What is this definition of civic engagement? What is the language that we use to talk about civic engagement? That's the framing language. And here's some terms. They use civic identity. Well, what does that mean? Communication skills. What does that mean? So read that, and then what we do is we go to the value rubric. So AAC&U says we are going to judge how well your students do on civic engagement by using those criterion on the left. Now remember, there's no law that says you have to do all 16, right? It's just, this is what the American Association of Colleges and Universities say. This is what a good citizen should have, these 16 skills, okay? We have all of these skills in our degree, but we can't measure them all. That's too much to measure them all. So right now, we're just going to focus on our three proficiencies. So there's the criterion. And now notice, remember Bloom's taxonomy had 6. They're down to 4. Because, think about it, this is university, we're going to lop off the bottom part. So the benchmark level, okay, now let's just look across diversity of communities and culture. At the benchmark, the base level, the student is able to view his or her beliefs from their point of view. And they don't really care that there's diversity out there. They're all focused on themselves. I understand I have my own culture, and I understand that there's others, but I don't care. At the level 2, okay, the person is aware of their own attitudes and beliefs, and that they are different than others. So now all of a sudden they're aware. They're not just throwing it to the wind. They're aware, but not really out there figuring it out. But they're like, yeah, no, I get that this is happening because that's their culture. Okay, whatever, move on. At a level 3, all of a sudden now they start thinking about it. They start reflecting. They say, wow, that culture does this way. I do it this way. This other culture does something this way. And I really wonder why it is like that. I'm going to go figure that out. So we're going to go investigate. Okay, and you're going to learn about it, and you have some curiosity. So see how that's building. And at the highest level, at the capstone level, level 4, you actually go out and understand the different cultures, and that understanding then affects you. You have changed because you have an understanding. And now you are engaged in something diverse. So that's a level 4. So you can go through these value rubrics and say, okay, my project, I'm at like a level 2. And oh, nope, over here on this one, I'm at a level 4. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to go through your project and you need to figure out how you're going to do this, right? How are you going to meet these criteria? So don't get too panicky, okay? Because in the next example, the next short slide here, I'm going to show you, well, no, I guess I have time here. I got a few more minutes. So let me back up. You don't need to exhibit 16, okay? What we need to do is you need to demonstrate a high level of proficiency, and that should say least, not least, in 4 competencies across 2 proficiencies. So remember, we're assessing 3 proficiencies. That's all we're going to assess. Even though we do lots more, we're going to only look right now at 3 proficiencies. And under each proficiencies, there's competencies. There's 12 total. Your project only needs to look at 4 of those competencies in 2 areas. And you only need to have an average score of a 3. So you don't need even to be at the benchmark level at anything. You can have all 3s. You could have 2 4s and 2 2s and still be at a 3. You could have 3 3s and a 4. You could have a 4, 2 3s, and a 2. You just got to have an average of a 3. So what we did when we looked at this, so I worked with some people on this, and what we did is we developed this handy dandy spreadsheet for you. And this is in the project information. Let me go grab it here. Project proposal. It's called Learning Outcomes and Proficiencies. Okay, so it's this spreadsheet, and what we've got, you can read the top stuff, okay, but what you've got is you've got your BAS proficiency. Then you've got your BAAS competency. Then what we did is we went through all 16 of those and said, okay, what best maps to our competency of integrate past work-life experience with college experience. Which one of those? Well, we said, well, integrative learning AAC and U value rubric does that the best. And of all of those criterion, in our opinion, connection to experience is the best mapping that we've got. So we already mapped these out for you. So that's the easiest way to do this. Now look at down here. Demonstrate persistent learning through the capacity to apply research skills, critical analysis, group discussion techniques, disciplined writing in community and work settings. That is a mouthful. Holy cow, we can do a lot of stuff right there in that one competency. So we said, when we looked, we said, wow, well, it could be attained in information literacy, looking at the evaluate information and sources critically rubric. You could attain that by inquiry and analysis rubric using the analysis criterion. You could attain it by written communication using the context of and purpose of writing, or you could use it in integrated learning and integrated communication. Note those words or. Any one of those four fit nicely into that statement. So you can come down here, see, and there's lots of ors, right? Because there's lots of different ways to look at this. So the only one I really want you to look at, lastly, is this last one. The last one is the teamwork leadership one. You have to do all three. They're not ors. You must be able to facilitate team contributions of everybody. You must be able to foster constructive team climate, and you must be able to respond to conflict. They all go hand in hand, right? If you have a team, you're going to have conflict, you got to fix it. If you have a team, you want positive team. Otherwise, you're not getting anything done, and you want to make sure everyone pulls their weight. So that just makes sense that that's an and. Now, this is our best guess. Myself and a couple other people on the assessment committee did this. This is our best mapping that we have done. That does not preclude you. If you want to, you can go back to that AAC and U value rubric, and you could use the civic engagement rubric, and you could use, let me go find, just whoop past that. You could use civic identity and commitment and say your project's at a level 3. But you have to tie that back to one of the competencies. That's fine. If you want to use another value rubric, that is absolutely fine. But we just map them out for you. So I think I'm going to stop there because I'm 13 minutes. But what you can do is you can look in the two examples, and you can see how the students last semester did their projects. I think the key thing that I really want you to remember are those, let me go back to the PowerPoint. I really want you to think about how so you remember in your head, you've got, this is what I'm going to do, but you need to tell the assessment committee how you're meeting that. Okay, so remember in assessment, they're looking for words that say actions and what are the results. And what you're going to do is be observable. So I am going to do effective communication by writing a 2-page brochure using business communication techniques to deliver this information. Okay, what level is that? Is that a 3? Then make sure you tell them how it's a 3. Because that's where everybody got hung up last year. Half of our projects got sent back because people were just parroting, I'm going to analyze this, I'm going to evaluate that. No. How are you going to do it? What action are you going to do to evaluate it? Are you going to do a survey? Are you going to do a lit review with 10 sources? There you go. Not just, I'm going to analyze it. You can't say that. How are you going to analyze it? So for next Tuesday, so that would be Tuesday the 16th, you need to have that spreadsheet done. And then the seminar instructor and your faculty mentor, more your seminar instructor, is going to work with you to make sure that that's all squared away. All right, so email me or email your seminar instructor. You've all been assigned, and we will help you through. So I'll see you on the 16th. Okay.